Thanks, guys. So my name's Adam. You might have looked in the digital agenda and saw a bloke called Rod McKenzie. So that's my boss. About 2 weeks ago, he says, mate, I've got to go overseas for business. Can you do a presentation about customer experience and tell our story? I said, yeah, sure, no worries, mate. Of course, I'd be happy to do that. Love to tell stories. When is it? It's in 2 weeks. So here I am. I'm going to tell our journey through the first 3 stages of MPS. Now, you've noticed that I've got first in brackets because there'll be many more stages. You know, customer experience is a long journey. So a little bit about NIB. So NIB stands for if you don't know, Newcastle Industrial Benefits. We were founded over 60 years ago through BHP Steelworks up the road in Newcastle by employees wanting to start their own funds for their own healthcare. We've got about 8% market share. We're pushing 1 million customers. And last year, just to give you the scale of these things, we paid out $1.2 billion in claims to help people fund their healthcare. Where do I click? Anyone help me here? Okay, right. So the first 3 stages of MPS. So I'm going to structure our story today in 3 stages. So the first stage is turning on the fire hydrant. So releasing our surveys out into the wild. Stage 2, managing the flow. So how do we deal with the information when it comes to the organisation? And finally, with stage 3, taking the plunge. So taking action on those insights we've gathered from our surveys. And I'm going to open our kimono today, if you will. I'm going to tell you some lowlights and highlights, some of the things that we got really wrong that we just didn't understand. It wasn't until we started to put the customer at the heart of everything we do that we truly understood how we actually were operating as a business. And I'm sure other organisations in here and those guys in customer experience roles will have similar stories to tell. So this graph represents our journey through MPS. So it begins when we first started in February 2010, all the way to February 2015. So we've got more promoters than detractors. Actually, when we began, we started at positive 10%. So it's not bad for an insurance organisation. So it's gone from about 10 to 30% over the last 3 years. But you'll notice there's a big plunge. So what the hell happened there? So back in 2012, the government decided to index the rebate. Now, the rebate is a government initiative to incentivise you to take up health insurance, and it reduces your premiums. So they actually changed the rebate percentage. So at tax time, when we sent out our tax statements, we had thousands of customers calling up going, what does this mean for me? What does this mean for my premiums? And we didn't forecast for it. And in the industry, we call it the great disaster, because when we spoke to other funds, the same thing happened to them. They didn't forecast it for it either. So we got some really... We still managed to get, not into the negative, but it was still not a good look for us. So NPS for us was going up over the last 3 years. It's been really good. But yet our lapse, so our churn rate, the percentage of customers was getting higher. There was more customers leaving. So you might say, well, what's up with that? We're improving customer experience, yet more customers are leaving us every day. So what happened there is, and it's a bit of an industry problem at the moment, we've got the rise of the iSelects, the aggregators, churning the market. You'll see them on TV. Just encourage people to switch. So switches are going through the roof. People are swapping funds. And actually the category is actually new to PHI, so new to private health insurance, is actually slowing down. So life before MPS. So before our customer experience started to take customer experience seriously, our distribution channels were operating in separate divisions to our marketing and our products teams. So where our marketing products guys were, and the rest of the business was focused on policyholder growth, our contact centre and retail networks was all about operational efficiency. So remember at the time, speaking to our contact centre manager, I said, so what do you guys actually measure? What's your measure of success in the contact centre? And he said, well, Adam, it's great service, bums on seats. It's making sure we've got the right amount of people answering phones for the volume coming in. I'm like, that's great, mate. So what are our customers actually calling about? And he couldn't actually answer me. He didn't know. He was all about answering as many calls as he could within 30 seconds, and that was his measure of success. You know, back then we didn't have any skilled win-back agents to save our customers. So when a customer called back then and said, hey, I'm thinking of leaving, I'd like to cancel my policy, we would go, yeah, sure, no problem. I'll do that for you straight away. Retention was everybody's problem, but nobody's problem. No one owned it. We had this fantastic initiative back in 2009 called Dive to 5. So how do we get our lapse rate down to 5%? On every floor at our head office in Newcastle, we had these giant styrofoam 5s, twice the size of me on every floor. The awareness for lapse was fantastic. The business was talking about it. It was really exciting. It was fantastic. So over a 4-week period, the business will stick Post-it notes on these 5s with all their ideas of how they thought they could improve the customer experience and reduce lapse. But sadly, we didn't do anything with them because nobody owned it. It was everybody's problem, but nobody's problem. And customer experience was a verb, it wasn't a noun. We didn't have a program in place. We solved a lot of customer problems, and we were very good at it. And you know what? It feels good. It feels good when you solve an issue for a customer. Problem was, though, we kept solving the same problem over and over again. And complaints, we used to think that complaints were only from whingers. Only people who claim they're just a bunch of whingers. Then we started to actually look at our complaints data. You know what? There's real customer issues here, real things affecting our customers. And what we know now is, through our research, is that so just say you've got 100 customers who have an issue, only 4 of them will actually complain. So it's actually a lot bigger than we thought. So we were starting to treat that data like gold as well. So that's kind of where we were before NPS. So the start of NPS, so Rod, who I mentioned before, who was our CMO back in 2009, he was introduced to NPS through Reicheld's book, and I think we all got a copy of his second version. It's a really good read, so have a read of it. So we actually we started piloting Net Promoter Score through our NIB dental centres. So NIB, we've got dental centres across the country, and we got some really good insights from our survey. So we were looking at comments from our Sydney Dental Centre. There's all these comments about these customers complaining about the screams they'd hear at the theatre next door of tooth extractions and drilling. And I was like, what's going on here? And we actually realised that, you know what, within that site, the walls were paper thin. So because of those comments, we actually moved the whole centre from George Street to a new state-of-the-art function in Hunter Street, purely based on those insights, which we would never have known about unless we trialled NPS. So we thought, oh, we're onto something here. So that then led to Whitecoat. Now, Whitecoat is Australia's first website where you can search and compare extras provider. Now, an extra provider in our world is a dentist, physio, chiro, optometrists. So within this site, you can actually search and compare. So just say you're having a round of golf this afternoon, you do your back in, you need a chiro straight away, but you're not from the Hunter, you don't know where to go. So you can jump onto this site, punch in the Hunter, search for a chiro, and you can actually look at how they compare based on the NPS scores of what our customers actually said and have a look at their comments. You can also compare based on service charge from actual NIB claims data. So it's a really cool site. So these are the kind of wow factors that we've been able to build purely from Net Promoter Score. So we've had some successful ventures. So we thought, right, our first NPS survey proper to our customers was in Feb 2010, based on transactions from our contact centre and our retail network. And from the beginning, from what we'd learned from our dental centres, the data was, was a valuable company resource. And we made sure that we sent weekly emails all out to our senior managers, so it was in everyone's faces. But then we thought, oh, great, now let's give it to all our frontline guys. But there were some hiccups along the way. There was a lot of comments about commenting on physical appearance of our retail staff. So if that's you and you're reading that comment, it's not a good thing. It's to do with the culture. So it's important that we had the right leaders and the right support mechanisms in place to deal with that. And quick wins. So there was lots of quick wins that we found from service failure from comments. So we saw a lot of failures around, you never called me back. You didn't call me back. So we had a look at that and we just simply found that within our contact centre, there was no centralised callback system. It was Post-it notes. It was Outlook reminders. Because our people, great at service, they wanted to deliver that personal service of, no, I'm going to call that customer back. I own that customer. I own that relationship. What happened was they'd, unplanned leave, they'd be sick, and there was no visibility, and the customer wouldn't get called back. I think my personal favourite at the time, back here when we're looking at it, was you still haven't responded to my email, and all I got was this bloody email survey. So quite frankly, if you can't respond to an email in a reasonable time, don't have an email channel. It just drives calls into your contact centre and pisses off your customers. So we pretty much re-engineered how that team worked as well, so that we're not, there's no lengthy delays. So stage one is all about getting our surveys out the door, starting to gather data. Stage two is all about, okay, how do we manage the flow? How do we manage that information? So one of the things we did, we established service recovery mechanisms to deal with that data. So for detractors who scored 0 to 2, we actually gave them a call to understand, well, why did you give it that score? How can we do better? We introduced, this intervention team who would make outbound calls, they also would do service recovery things such as if your credit card was about to expire, would call you first before you fell into arrears, things like that. We established a win-back team, so a team who are highly skilled to save a customer. So now when a customer rings up to cancel, we do everything we can to save them, to make sure they're on the right product. We also developed a quality assurance team to monitor our calls in terms of to address knowledge gaps, to identify and address knowledge gaps to ensure that our customers were getting consistent, accurate advice. And then we introduced, so how do we prioritise all this information that's coming in? There's a lot of it. So we did two things. So one was establishment of a quick wins forum. So it's basically a monthly forum where we've got 6 managers from the business, so from IT, from digital, from products, who can actually make things happen fast, and 6 representatives from our front line who represent the customer, who bring quick wins that can be solved quickly, so we can take action really fast and start building momentum. So the second thing was so that was for our quick wins. For the harder problems that we'd found through our data, we actually created a quality improvement team. So they're a bunch of lean practitioners, which is a process improvement methodology. They solve our big problems to address customer issues. We also introduced LEAP methodology to our front line, so tools for our customers, for our consultants to have great customer conversations. And also for our leaders, who before were just administrators monitoring bathroom breaks, etc., to be able to be coaches, to coach our people to have these great conversations. And then we also we modified our survey as well. So we actually added in customer effort score as a third question into our survey. So we then could understand what transactions are our customers finding difficult. So then we had another area to actually take action on. So I just want to tell a few stories about some of the learnings that the quality improvement team got. So from picking up the insights and where they would go. So one of the things that the guys did was we'd had our NPS data coming in, but we want to understand, well, what are our customers actually calling us about? What is the demand that's coming into our call centre? And we classify demand either as value demand or failure demand. So value demand they're the calls you want. So customer ring up, hey, can you sell me something? Can you upgrade my cover? Or I'd like to add my baby to the policy. They're the calls we want. Failure demand are the calls we don't want. They're driven by poor customer experiences and organisational defects. Things like, hey, I submitted my claim 2 weeks ago. I haven't heard anything, you still haven't paid me. Or my card's not working when I go to the dentist. I don't understand this letter you've sent me. So then by looking at that failure demand analysis, it gave us a scope of work and things to fix. And then we would go to the Gemba. So going to the Gemba, Japanese word for going to the place of work, where the actual issues are. So we noticed with NPS and as well as the failure demand coming in and complaints, lots of areas of complaints around student dependence. So a student dependent is, so if you've got a family policy and you've got a dependent who's between 21 and 25 studying full-time, we don't charge them to be on the policy. So to qualify for that, you've got to fill out a form. So we'll post you out a form, and you've got to co-sign it with your mum and dad, and you've got to put in your graduation date, your student number, all your university details. Then you send it to us, and then we don't do anything with it at all. We don't even look at it. It goes straight through processing, and we hard code it to 31st of the 3rd of the following year. So when that rolls around the next year, we send them a form again. so then obviously they're ringing us going, what are you doing? I gave you this stuff last year. So we've fixed that now, but wouldn't have known about it unless we heard about it from our customers. Show me is really important for us. You know, we'll always have people saying, oh, this is an issue, this is an issue, this is an issue. But you've got to quantify it. You've got to ensure that you're not going after all these little small problems affecting one or two customers here and there. But you're going after problems that actually have the greatest impact. One of my favourite quotes from Deming is, without fact, you're just another person with an opinion. And it really holds true for me and what we do. Understanding your processes end to end for us was really key. Before NPS and Voice the Customer, we didn't really, we hadn't mapped the customer journey across our processes. My personal favourite was probably our remittance advice to hospitals. So hospitals are also our customers. So when a patient of ours goes to hospital, we'll pay the hospital. Then we send them a bit of paper to say, hey, here's what we put into your account for all these customers. So every morning, our finance guys go to the printer, they get a big wad of paper like that, they then carry that down to our mailroom. That's their job done. The mailroom then stuff it into envelopes, send it off to the hospitals. But then there's one subset of hospitals, their stuff goes into a courier to Sydney. So they put it in the courier, it goes to Sydney, that's their job done. Our mail house then opens up all these things, scans them in to our workflow system, and that's their job done. Then back in Newcastle, our people on level 6 actually go to that workflow and email them to the hospitals. So we print stuff out, send it to Sydney, get it back to us in Newcastle, and then we email it. So it was nuts, but we didn't know that until we actually looked at end to end what our processes were. And there was many stories like that, and we're going through and we're fixing them all by understanding where we're adding value in the value chain and we're identifying all the waste, removing the waste. Root cause problem solving. So before, I mentioned that we're great at solving problems, but we're solving the same problems over and over again. We now have systematic problem solving methodology within the organisation. We use 5 whys, we use PDCA, and I'm great at doing this because I've got 3 children under 6 and they're always like, why dad, why dad, why dad? So I can be quite annoying at work doing the same thing. We had, looking at our complaints data, we had 100 complaints a week of a customer saying, my car's not working, So one particular customer I looked into, he was getting a massage, went to swipe his card, get his benefit, card wouldn't work. So he rings the call centre. What do you think our call centre did? Yeah, sure, no worries, I'll just order a new card. So that would happen. A couple of weeks later, he'd get his card, goes back to the same masseur, has the same service, goes to swipe his card. Fuck, still not working. Rings the call centre. What do you think they did? No worries, sir, order a new card. So I was like, why? Why are we doing this? Why is his card not working? So what did I know? I knew that, okay, so it's only happening when at an extra provider. So that's, physios, chiros, etc. And it's only happening when they use their card in the high caps machine. Okay, so I know that. So what else? So I looked at all the service charges and I looked at it, okay, so when the service charge is not a multiple of 5 cents, it rejects. Well, why is that? So I went around the IT guys and said, why does this rule exist? They go, oh yeah, we put that in place back in 1966 when we lost 1 and 2 cent pieces. I'm like, right, okay. So basically it was 20 minutes to fix that business rule in our core system. Those complaints went away to about 2 a week, which are for legitimate ones such as, yeah, your card's pretty old, time for a new one. So just the really importance of root cause problem solving. And don't underestimate the cultural change. It was a big learning for us as well when we're doing a lot of these process improvements. We found that when we looked at our failure demand, we had 20-odd thousand calls a month on customers chasing extras claims that they'd actually posted into us. So we have a team of processors who actually process them. And so we did some workshops with them, and they were convinced that they were working as efficiently as they could. And they'd work on buckets. So they'd have a bucket in their workflow of dental items, bucket of physio ones, a bucket of chiro ones, and they were convinced that if they did a heap of dental ones all in a row, they'd get on a roll and be really fast. Then they'd move to the chiro ones and they'd get on a roll. And so I was like, no, guys, it's not going to work. And they're like, no, it is, Adam. So I said, okay, fine, let's do this together. So we introduced visual management. So we actually visually showed how the process was performing. And over a week, sure enough, we looked at productivity and efficiency. And they're like, right, now it's my turn, guys. Let me try something. So introduce first in, first out. So because all the guys could process all the claims. They're all skilled. So introduce first in, first out. Process the oldest one that comes in first. So sure enough, after a week, after productivity and efficiency, all the backlogs were cleared, and which reduced our turnaround time from 2 to 3 days on average to like a couple of hours. And so because we took that on the journey, visually showed them, that cultural change was pretty good. So, did NPS really matter? The skeptics are out. NPS is going up, but customer churn is also going up. But what this graph shows us, though, is, it does have an impact. This is NPS by survival rate. So survival rate of customers from 0 to 24 months along the bottom. So what it proves to us is that our promoters have a much higher survival rate than our detractors. What's also really interesting here, I don't know if you can see it, but the detractors, if you look at the purple line, the blue line, they actually cross over. So I mentioned before that we had this intervention team who call customers who score 0 to 2. Well, that's the 2. They actually did something to their survival rate. So now, based on this, we actually call all our detractors now. So it's a really, really important learning for us. So you know what? NPS does matter for our organisation. So stage 1, getting the surveys out. Stage 2, managing the flow. Stage 3 for us was taking action, taking the plunge, putting formalised plans in place to actually deal with this. So here's how we like to think about it. Basically, we've got some voice of customer dashboards with a heap of customer metrics such as NPS, value demand, customer effort scores. We have our service recovery teams in place to save our customers, to intervene with our customers' policy before something goes wrong, QA to make sure that we're giving consistent and accurate conversations. And then we have dedicated teams to prioritise the insights that we get to actually make a difference. Customer plan. So we introduced a customer plan a few years ago, and we did this to make it visible that the business was actually doing something. And we actually created it for the front line. So they knew that, we're not just collecting data for the sake of it, we're actually going to do something about it. And the customer plan, it's all about delivering tactical projects, and we deliver the 4 types of projects. So the first one is reducing failure demand. So projects that actually reduce failure demand by looking at process improvements. Second, a lot of projects around routine transactions. How do we make it simpler for our customers to do routine transactions? Can we do more things on the mobile? Can we do more things online? Then the third one is, how can we deliver exceptional service and key moments of truth? So development of knowledge tools for our front line, such as a product catalogue. And lastly, how can we deliver wow factors for our customers? So, we create things like white coat, things that exceed their expectations. So we've got a dedicated team that looks after a customer plan with a lot of key stakeholders in the business about customer experience, continual improvement. We also now have a retention plan. So we've got a dedicated team who looks after this. So, and this is all about building better relationships with our customers to make sure they stay with us longer. So one of the things that these guys are doing, I think April 1's tomorrow, whoever's got private health insurance, you'll get a rate rise. Every time a year our call centre gets smashed. And the comments from MPS are all around, I've been with you 20 bloody years, every year you raise my rate, I've never claimed with you, I've been loyal to you, what are you going to do for me? So we're actually launching a loyalty program next month. It's a pilot program at this stage. It's a bit like entertainment book. So we're just going to see how that goes. And then if it works, we'll extend on it. We also introduced consultant score. So back in the early stages, when we Golf gave our frontline access to their comments and scores. They're like, great. So they started delivering bloody exceptional customer service, like 40-minute phone calls for a simple transaction, so they get great scores. So what this meant is we've got hundreds of customers stuck in queues waiting to get through. So this is why we introduced Consultant Score. What it is, it's a balance of NPS and average handle time. So it's getting that, so we can deliver effective and efficient calls. And it's something it's really worked for us. And it's now a KPI of our frontline. We've embedded NPS into all our plans and our bonuses, from CEO down to the front line. This, excuse my horrible drawing, but on the left is where we were, typical organisation. We were all travelling the wrong direction. We had our contact centre purely focused on grade of service, not on what our customers are actually doing, and our marketing division and products focused on policy growth. So so now we're more like on the right, we're all aligned. From the strategic plan down through Hosh and Cunnery, if you will, strategy deployment, all our plans are aligned right down the bottom. So now it's, we've got this mantra that, we put the customer at the heart of everything we do to improve the customer experience and business performance. And we live and die by it now. It's something that, at investor presentations every year, NPS is high on the agenda for us because we take it very seriously. Cultural challenges. So I nicked this Lego picture from a process excellence conference I went to a few years ago. I just tweaked a little bit for our business. But you've got a guy on the left holding some wheels, and he's saying to the other two, you need help? I think there's probably a smarter way we could do things around here. And the other two are pushing a cart with square wheels. One guy says, no, we're too busy. The other guy's like, yeah, and this is the way I've always done things. And we get this all the time at NIB. So I mentioned the claims team that we got them to change the way they work through visual management. Well, in the workshops preceding that, where we talked about customer experience, we talked about lean, we had veterans in the room, in the corner, just, don't worry, these guys will be gone soon. We'll go back to doing the things we always used to. And then we'd have, some young new guys in the team. Oh, this is great. I'm loving this lean stuff. Look at that. That process we do over there is so dumb. If we did it that way, we could remove all the overtime we do on a Saturday. That was great, But what I found out after that meeting was the veterans cornered this young girl. And they're like, look, you see Danny over there? She just bought a new Thermomix. Now, the only way her husband would let her buy that Thermomix because the overtime she does on Saturday. Do you really want to do that to her? So that's what we were dealing with. But by taking people on the journey, using visual management, there was nowhere to hide. So it was a good way to make change. So it's just some lessons for us. Don't rush the cultural change. Don't go straight into stage 3 unless you've got the right support and the infrastructure and the plans in place. Put the comments in everyone's face, especially top management. Ensure your people leaders are great people leaders that can coach. And ensure your key leaders are trained in lean, prioritisation, and problem solving. So one of the things for us is health insurance is it's $2 to $3 grand a year. It's not cheap. So with switching Rife, would you pay a company $3 grand a year if they spelt your name wrong at join, or took 2 weeks to pay a claim? I know I wouldn't. So that's why this is so important for us, because switching is so easy these days, especially with iSelects in the market telling you to switch right now on TV. So for us, it's all about moving from, it's doing 2 things. So one is creating an environment where there's zero tolerance for customer failure, but also creating great, exceptional customer service. And doing that by creating memories. So I saw a great talk by Lior Arussi, the founder of Strativity, a couple of weeks ago on my laptop. And he was talking about creating memories for your customers, delivering great customer experiences and service to build strong relationships. And he told this story of this busy exec who rings his flower chain. So he rings the flower chain, he's going, right, I need 2 dozen roses, here's my credit card details, and deliver it to this address, and do it now. And the consultant's like, yep, okay, sir, no worries. What's wrong? don't bloody sir me, just do it, I need it now. So the consultant had everything she needed. She knew she was 12 dozen roses. She had the payment details. She had the delivery address. So she could have said yes or no worries and got off the phone. But she didn't, because in her organisation, they were trained to deliver memories. So she pushed the guy. She said, right, sir, it'll take me a matter of moments to do this transaction for you. What's wrong? Is everything okay? He goes, oh, look, I missed the wife's bloody anniversary yesterday. I had to sleep on the couch. I'm in the doghouse. My back's killing me. Can you please just do this? And she's like, sir, not a problem. What if I do this for you? What if I put a note in the flowers and say that we messed up the delivery address? You know what? I'll throw some chockies in too. What do you think of that? So he completely changed now. He's like, look, that'd be fantastic. Awesome, thank you so much. So she solved the problem and she upsold him with the chocolates. But it doesn't stop there. A couple of days later, she rings the exec back and she goes, so how's the wife? Oh, you saved me there. I'm out of the doghouse. You know, thank you so much for that. She says, well, why don't I do this? Why don't you give me the details of your PA and I'll get all the dates of all your friends and families, and a few days out I'll give you a call and see if you need anything from us. So just from that one simple thing, the culture that Flower Chain had created, creating memories, she's now got loyalty for life for this guy. So it's something that we're trying to do at NIB as well. So thank you very much.